Hey there, multi-prep teachers. You know how professional development never seems to quite get to what we need? It's like, great idea, but how do I make this work when I have 3+ preps to juggle? That's exactly why I created the Simplify Your Preps Collective. It's a free Facebook group built just for teachers like you, where we share tips, resources, and real talk about making multi-prep teaching less overwhelming and more doable. Sound like your kind of space? Head to kristenmasick.com/collective and join us today. Let's simplify together. Welcome to this week's Ask Me Anything, where you can ask me anything about CTE, teaching multiple preps, being a mom, secondary teaching, being an administrator, whatever you want to ask. It is a free game. This is the second episode for the week, and it is only during the summer. If you have a question, feel free to send me an email at hello@kristenmasick.com or a DM on Instagram at kristenmasick, KRISTENMASSIC. Welcome to the Secondary Teacher Podcast, the podcast for middle and high school teachers juggling multiple preps to get the strategies to reduce overwhelm so that you don't have to choose between being an effective teacher and prioritizing important relationships. I'm your host, Kristen Masick, a 10-year high school engineering teacher, former middle school assistant principal, and teacher coach. Every week, we will discuss strategies, systems, and time-saving tips to help you not only survive but thrive as a multiple prep teacher. Today's question comes from Sarah, and Sarah says, new teacher here with a wide variety of classes teaching grades 7 through 12. She is wondering what supplies or must-haves should I purchase? I'm going to look at this definitely through the lens of engineering and the classes that I taught that way, possibly even like careers, definitely more of that STEM background, but try to keep it a little bit general so that it might be able to help more of you listening. So my first thing, like my must-have supply, I love the big poster board Post-it notes, like the sticky notes they can stick onto the wall. I've mentioned it before, even in episode 213, so the last one, that I love the gallery walk. And so having those big, giant sticky notes are like my favorite thing ever. So I would say that is probably my number one supply. The other thing is I would look and find out what your classroom or lab situation, think about how you want to be putting your class together. If you haven't already, listen to episode 213 and come up with kind of your planning, what protocols you're going to want to be using, and how you generally are going to want to set up your classroom. One of the things that I liked doing is having supplies per cluster of tables. I had my students sitting almost in teams, and then having them grouped together allowed me to just have all of the supplies at that one central location. I had them at the desk. Now you don't have to do that. You could also have them all in a cupboard, but I had enough so that each group of desks had a set of something, and then you'll want to define, okay, what is that set? Is it that you have a pair of scissors for every student who is in that group? Are you wanting markers? It's usually like general supplies, but a lot of times your school might have those items, but maybe they don't have enough for you to have sets of, or enough sets of. That would be another thing that I would look into, is how are you going to manage like your student supplies when they're going to be using certain things. You'll also want to check out your office and see, like, maybe you have a brand preference, like you like a certain kind of marker or pen or whatever. You might want to get some of those for your classroom. The other thing that you'll want to look into is going with your protocols and your routines, is how are you wanting to group students, and there could be supplies that have to do with that. Next, look into manipulatives. I really enjoyed having my students have the opportunity to play when they were brainstorming or trying to be creative, or even if they just needed a few minutes to relax or just kind of like get the wiggles out. So I loved having manipulatives, which could be toys. They could be like Legos or some sort of building things. I ended up having a lot of those kind of items that I could use for projects for actual brainstorming, but then they could also be playing with them. Think about possibly any of those kind of things that you might need. Those could be for projects or just kind of generally think what is something that you like to do when you are trying to get like the creative juices flowing. The next thing to consider would be cleanup. When you're looking at, once again, look at your routines and procedures. We talk about it a lot in episode 99. I mentioned it in episode 213. When you're talking about cleanup procedures, what do you need more of, or possibly more sets of, to allow students to clean up better? So do you need a lot of sanitizing wipes, like more than you would normally have, so that each grouping or each table or each zone all have their own stuff? The other thing that I would consider when it comes to supplies is, how are you going to organize? If you're going to color code things, or if you are going to be taking pictures of various things so that your students will put things back where they go, I would look at what you would want to buy for that. And this could even include if you are wanting to have your space be able to be rearranged in several different ways. So maybe you want, if you're in a classroom and you've got rows, and then maybe you have tables, and then you have groupings, you can also like put those configurations on the floor with different colors of masking tape so that students know how to arrange their desks in certain ways. Those are the things that I would think about. That's the general supplies that I would get now where you're in the summer. Now, if you've already have your curriculum map, which should be something that you are thinking about or you will be thinking about, when you're looking down the road, you should hopefully have enough time to order things like a few weeks beforehand if you're planning that far in advance to kind of have an idea. I don't tend to love to have a ton of things stockpiled because they end up being a clutter, or I have to find a place to put them. Those would be like kind of my bare minimum of things to just like get us started. Toys, your big post-it notes, any sort of supplies that you want more of, whether that's the supplies to help students create things, brainstorm things, or then also clean up things. If you have a question, make sure that you send that to me either in a DM on Instagram, or you can send it to me via email. It's hello@kristenmassick.com, and it is spelled KristenMassic. Until next week.